It says live.
We're live, everyone. Yay! I'm just going to put my phone on vibrate. Hang on. All right.
I really need to do the same thing.
Hello, YouTubers. Hello, everyone. I am El Dia Opina, which translates to The Day's Opinion. I am Dia, and today we are discussing abortion. I mean, that's kind of what I always discuss. I'm sure people are getting sick of it. But today's a bit different because I have the PR manager from the Human Coalition, the very fantastic Sunshine, Lauren Enriquez. Say hello, Lauren.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. It's really nice of you. And first time guest on my channel, but someone I've been communicating with quite a while now, Nicole from the YouTube channel, The Breakup.
Hello.
Yay. All right, so we each have our own opinions regarding abortion, but we are all conservative, so I think that's an interesting thing to state. So it sort of shows the...
I'm actually a centrist.
Centrist, but sorry. What I meant by conservative was pretty much that you are reasonable and not a lefty. That's pretty much what I meant.
Oh.
Is that fair? Is that fair?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, great. All right, well, then that's better. That's better that you're a centrist because it shows the wide spectrum of political views that we each and all have. So what we're going to do today is we're going to discuss 3 to 4 major abortion headlines, which I preempted you guys on. And I'll state my position, then Lauren will state her position, and then Nicole, you'll state your position, and then we'll just chat about it. So it's won't be that hard. So, well, before we begin, I get each of you to introduce yourselves and tell YouTube land your thoughts, opinions, and what you do. I'll start with you, Nicole.
I am Nicole. I'm half of the YouTube channel, The Breakup. We discuss socio-political matters, of which abortion does fall under. We've covered this one before. I had a conversation with Thomas Ellington where we had a long debate over the subject. You can follow us on YouTube at The Breakup, or follow either myself, Nicole22185, or Chris Logic Media on Twitter,
which I've placed in the description box below.
Yes. I'm a radical centrist. I have views that don't really categorize as conservative or liberal. So this should be an interesting conversation, and I will move it on to you, Lauren.
Great. I'm Lauren Enriquez. Like Dia said, I'm the public relations manager at a pro-life nonprofit called Human Coalition, but I've been working in the pro-life movement most of my life in many different organizations. So I've been exposed to different facets of the pro-life movement, definitely pro-life on abortion. And I consider it my goal in life to make abortion unthinkable and unavailable in my lifetime. I have 3 kids and I live in Texas.
Yay! I live in Melbourne, Australia.
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, cool.
We're all in different places. Sorry, I'm just sending the tweet elsewhere.
Okay.
Okay, so I can't send it to the other place. All right. Okay, so let's begin with the first abortion headline, which comes from Australia. And it is our MP, which is a member of parliament. His name is Andrew Wilkie. And what he recently wrote on Twitter, I personally didn't like. And I'll just get your thoughts and opinions. So this is what he wrote. The Liberal state government must get out of the 1950s and restore publicly funded surgical abortions in Tasmania. Hashtag Ozpool. I don't even know what the hashtags are, but that's for anyone looking at home. That's backwards. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And I responded. I find that comment really stupid because, well, I'm obviously opposed to that comment. I don't think anyone should be publicly funding women's anything. I don't think the government should be funding our condoms. I don't think the government should be funding our birth control. So if I think that, of course I'm going to think the same thing regarding abortion. There's no way on. I think if you want to have an abortion, pay for it yourself. I hate saying that, but don't demand the government to do that for you. You know, we live in a meritocracy, being in Australia and America. If you're in a meritocracy, you can earn money. It's a capitalist country. I'll take it to Lauren because I know her view will be similar, and then we'll finish off on the maybe slightly different opinions. So go, Lauren, what's your opinion on that particular statement?
Well, I don't know how the Australian public falls on public funding of abortion, but I know in the US, only about a third of Americans support public funding for abortion. So just putting aside politics and pro-life versus pro-choice views, there's just not public support for it here. In the US, we have something called the Hyde Amendment, which is a federal budget rider. It's not permanent legislation, but it gets renewed with every budget resolution. And the Hyde Amendment says that federal funding cannot fund abortion in the United States outside of the cases of rape, incest, and life of the mother. So a lot of times there's misinformation about that. Planned Parenthood constantly says that federal funding does not go to abortion. That's not 100% true. But the Hyde Amendment is always renewed ever since the 70s when it was introduced, because there's just not public support for public funding of abortion in the United States. And on a personal level,
who's that person? Sorry, who's that person that just joined the chat?
What in the world is this International Women's Day again?
What is going on? How do I get rid of this person?
You block me, girl. You block reality. You don't want to talk to somebody because you're scared.
No, I just don't know what the point of this is. I'm going to mute you.
The point is, Jesus Christ is going to kill us all.
Mute them.
Why are you muting me, woman? I'm trying to tell the world that Jesus Christ is a piece of shit. Why are you defending him?
What do I do?
Did he hack your YouTube or something?
I don't know.
She posted it on Twitter, women.
Maybe I should, hang on. Did I accidentally, I must have put the link up so everyone can join. Is that what I did?
Maybe. Yeah, that's probably what happened.
Okay, let me delete that then.
Yeah.
Should we start again? Should we start a completely different link?
Well, we'll just
delete that. You didn't put up the YouTube link, you put up the Hangouts link.
Oops.
Just delete that tweet. But anyway, to finish up my thought, I mean, on a personal level.
Yeah, sorry.
No, just so that we don't get completely derailed by a moron that decided to do something rude.
All right, I've deleted it.
On a personal level, I don't support, obviously. I mean, I don't support abortion at all. I think it should be illegal. And I hope that we change the culture so that no woman ever feels that she needs to have an abortion. But public funding for abortion, just from a conservative and pro-life standpoint, just makes no sense at all to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna delete my tweet. So I'm just sorry.
Oh, that's all right. You do that. So publicly funded abortion. Extreme cases where the police or government or the courts have had to become involved, as far as I'm concerned, is the only scenarios in which that should be even remotely available. If for whatever reason you feel you have no choice, medical reasons, personal choices, etc., that's going to have to come out of pocket. You made the mistake, you pay the price.
Yeah. Have you deleted the tweet, Nicole, so I can repost it?
Your tweet. Your delete deletes the link.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right.
Tweeted, so you're fine.
All right. Sorry. Keep going.
I do think public funding, as in state insurance, et cetera, should make birth control available so that abortion is less necessary.
Understood.
And there's also reasons that people take birth control that don't have to do with birth control. I, along with my teenage daughter, both take it as a form of hormone therapy to regulate our menstrual cycles, which has nothing to do with pregnancy because I can't do that anymore.
Oh.
No. I just got my tubes tied. It's not a big deal.
Okay. It was voluntary. Okay.
But no, it's there are things that I think should be available for regulating pregnancy as opposed to abortion, which is obviously not a pregnancy regulation process.
What do you think about that, Lauren?
Well, I don't believe in publicly funded abortion at all, ever, under any circumstances.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I do either. But obviously there's a point at which I'm not coming from in terms of experience. So, but I just think the statement he made, he said it for attention. I don't even know if he really thinks that. I will give you a brief background on Andrew Wilkie. He's He's a member of the Australian, he used to be a member of the Australian Greens, which was once upon a time a noble cause. That was sort of like animal rights and that kind of stuff, environmental rights. But they very, very quickly descended into other things like, you know, ecological sustainability, social justice, grassroots, LGBTQI rights, citizen status for asylum seekers who go into the country illegally, a voluntary euthanasia, and expanding abortion services. So he's not part of a group that I could ever align myself with. So that's the mentality of which he's coming from, which I find quite fascinating.
He did use a soundbite that was probably there to bait feminists and just kind of get the votes of a certain people group, and that
I would agree.
The 1950s statement that he made, like, we need to get out of the 1950s. The only people that view really public funding of elective abortion on demand is a really fringe minority of feminists that I'm assuming he's trying to get the votes of.
Yes, right. Absolutely agree.
Liberal extreme type view, and very, very, very few people actually share that perspective.
Yes.
Generally speaking, most people are fairly moderate. Even those in support of choice are fairly moderate in their perspective of it. 63%, I think, thinking that it should be cut to limited cases or special cases only.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little distracted.
It's all right, sweetie.
You guys keep talking. Hang on.
So, I mean, the people he was clearly trying to pander to.
Yeah, it was pandering for sure.
I think that it was half pandering and half just kind of clickbait. Like, this person just said something really, really absurd, and everybody's going to have something to say on it. And the more they have to say, the more spread that's going to become. Because every time you comment or somebody says, oh my God, you're human trash, that then goes to their timeline and more eyes go to it.
Yes, that's definitely true.
It was smart from a political standpoint to say something that radical.
Yeah, well, because obviously the feminists are going to be like, oh, wow, he really hears me. I get, I can kill my children. Yeah, that's what I want.
And he'll get a lot of endorsements and funding from those groups now, probably.
I would agree with that.
Or at the very least, more exposure.
Yeah.
Yes, exposure is probably key. So the second point was the clip taken from the British TV show, which is like The View, called Loose Women. And the Loose Women are discussing that abortion should be reduced from 24 weeks or 23 weeks in their country down to 20 weeks because, well, first of all, the takeaways I took from this, and I think, Lauren, you commented on it as well when we were discussing it via DM, was that the audience actually applauded. They were actually happy with the idea of taking the weeks back a little further. So I thought that was a positive. They discussed it without resorting to an emotional response, another takeaway I took. They're acknowledging the ability of the baby to survive. So the viability is there. Because people always go, oh, well, only when it's viable should you be allowed to abort. There are panels in the UK that approve the termination if it's beyond 24 weeks. So I know that that's a talking point in the US, not so much here in Australia, because we also would have the same system. So these panels, basically, if you really, really have to have an abortion for whatever reason beyond a certain time frame, you don't get the choice. It has to be advised by doctors. There's a panel. There's a whole series of people who are looking at the health of the baby to determine whether that's worth doing. There's also a graphic description that takes place where they talk about the baby panting for air until it dies. So that was very good that they mentioned that.
I do find where they give depictions like that, I do find that actually distasteful.
Well, these are all pro-choice women saying this.
Yeah, not because it's inaccurate, but because it's catering to an emotional response that people who do find themselves in a situation where they have very few choices in the matter are going back to that and
which one? You're talking about the panting for air?
About the panting for air and such. If it becomes a situation where it's the mother or the baby.
Of course, but we're not talking about those extreme circumstances.
I know. I'm just saying, I'm saying is that using examples like that, these are things people are generally already aware of, and it's catering to an emotional response that just further traumatize people who do find themselves in that situation. And therefore, I find it rather distasteful.
That's fair enough. I see your point, but the reason I think it was a positive overall was for the fact that that's what the left tends to do. They say, oh, well, you know, the baby's not viable, the baby doesn't feel any pain, there's no heartbeat at this time, it's a clump of tissues. They're doing the very same thing. So at least
Which is also distasteful.
Oh, of course. So at least when we're doing it, when people who are pro-life are doing it, the reasons are more noble. And this is actually pro-choice is saying this. So that's why I found it quite like a bit of a revelation. So just two more takeaways that I took from it, and then you guys can comment. Most doctors are uncomfortable performing abortions just beyond 16 weeks in the UK. Only 2 doctors in all of the UK will do abortions beyond 16 weeks. So that says a lot. And I want to also add that the UK is 46% atheist, whereas the US is more Christian. So I find that unusual, and it's a good thing, but I find that an odd, I don't know what the word is. It's odd. And then Loose Women took a poll, and 89% of those who took part in the poll want the age reduced. All right, Lauren, your takeaways, in your opinion.
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, I will say I like Loose Women a little more than The View. They seem to they seem to like hash things out a little bit more than they do on The View, where The View is like so political. But
anyway, I so agree.
Yeah, I thought this was like a really interesting and fascinating exchange, and it was really cool how the women who were actually kind of taking a pro-life position, even though they were pro-choice, they were taking a position against abortion past the point of viability, or they were supporting pushing the limits back in terms of gestational weeks. They were the women who had had abortions. So on some level, I think the abortion hadn't sat right with them. But I mean, let's just talk about, viability. Viability is a really arbitrary line that's drawn in the sand. And there's so many lines that are drawn in the sand by abortion supporters. Viability is one that doesn't make that much sense to me because there's not really a logical argument for why a child would suddenly gain human rights or dignity or value because it's viable outside the womb.
I'm on the same train.
And there's so many technological and medical advances in different countries. Like in the West, a child can survive now at 20 weeks, 21 weeks.
Which they said.
When Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973 in the US, viability was around 28 weeks, but they said it could go as early as 24 at that time. And so in the US, Roe v. Wade said abortion is legal through all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason, but states cannot legislate that abortion be restricted at any point in pregnancy until after viability. But now the question is, that was 45 years ago. What is viability now? So it's just very arbitrary. I think that was probably intentional on the part of the abortion activists that were influencing the Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade. They were intentionally trying to draw an arbitrary line so that it would be harder to challenge Roe v. Wade. And in terms of the gasping for air comment, I think that is really important. It's very important to discuss what's going on with the child in these pregnancies and in these abortions, because for a couple of reasons. One, some children do survive abortion and then end up dying because they don't.
I know. Don't tell me about that.
Yeah, or they don't, or they are intentionally killed post failed abortion by the abortionists. But also because if we are going to come at this from weighting the mother against the child or vice versa, we know that we hear these stories of women who had these horrible medical conditions and felt that they need abortion. The fact that abortion is actually never necessary to save the life of the mother is a conversation we can have later, but factually—
It's actually a conversation that's not had that often as well.
Yeah, you actually don't ever need an abortion to save your life. But if we're going to give a face to the women who choose a late-term abortion because of some kind of a life-threatening circumstance, the child should also have a face given to him or her. And the image of a child gasping for air kind of aligns with the image of a woman who feels desperate.
I've watched a late-term abortion. I've watched one.
Yeah, one more comment that I'll make about that, though. In the United States, the vast majority of late-term abortions are elective. They are not done because there's an extenuating circumstance, like a fetal anomaly or the mother has cancer or something. Most of them are elective. They're done for convenience. And so there's kind of been this myth created that it's a very rare occurrence that only happens in these extreme cases where, quote unquote, the life of the mother or like the fetal anomaly is in the balance. But that's not really the reality. And there are about 4 abortionists in the U.S. that will do 3rd trimester abortions, which would be post-viability. Yeah.
Colorado.
There are quite a few states that allow abortion post-viability, but there are only 4 abortionists around the country that will do them. But then after the abortionists that will do them after 16 weeks, we have a lot more than in Australia, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, Australia. No.
For the most part, most clinics won't perform after 16 weeks, which is 12 to 16 is basically where my cutoff for support of the issue.
Yeah, and it's a completely different procedure at that point. I mean, you've got to like dilate the cervix, and it's a 3-day process.
Exactly.
You're putting her through labor to have the baby killed.
Yeah. Essentially, at that point, you are.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Nicole, to what Lauren just stated? Because a lot of that, I learned something new there. I did not know.
I did want to bring up that there is actually a new amendment in the works, which I don't have all the details on because I wasn't able to dig it all up. But it essentially would legally limit the term to, I believe it is 20 weeks. For everyone. So those 4 clinics that are willing to perform would essentially have to conform to the 20-week standard.
Lauren?
Yeah, the Pain Capable Unborn Child Protection Act might be okay. Yeah. So the Senate voted that down.
You're like a walking dictionary, Lauren. So I love having you on.
Well, I knew
what I do for a living.
You should know what I was talking about because it is what she does for a living, and I was just kind of reading up on it so that I would be up to speed last night, but I could not remember for the life of me what it was called.
No, it's a really long title. It passed through the House. It was voted down by the Senate, but it's got good momentum, so we're hoping it'll come back around.
It does, and it likely will come back around. And there's very little reason that it wouldn't pass because it does have almost universal support, with the exception of the hardcore progressives who are,
I agree with that sigh. So I just wanted to state something. I just learned something a moment ago that I wasn't aware of. Lauren, you said that the life of the mother doesn't ever have to really be in the balance with the kid, that they can both survive. I didn't know that because what's being perpetuated is that there are so many circumstances that are apparently kid or mom or kid.
There are circumstances in which the pregnancy itself is the threat.
Right. Right. Yeah, I would have to qualify that statement. So there are cases where both will not survive. There are cases where the child will die.
Of course.
However, what needs to happen when a pregnancy is threatening a woman's life is she needs to not be pregnant anymore. How you end that pregnancy is the question. Do you separate the child from the mother without intentionally, directly killing it? So in the case of, in the case of cancer, for example, go ahead and treat the cancer. If the pregnancy is not exacerbating the cancer, but the child dies as a result of the treatment, I would consider that morally permissible. In a case like ectopic pregnancy, where the woman is absolutely going to die, I would say, don't take the drug that's going to cause you to abort, but out of respect for the child, remove the child, and the child will die as a result, but you don't have to directly kill the child. So
that's clever.
There are actually technologies in the works right now which would allow things like ectopic or tubular pregnancies to be removed from the mother and incubated elsewhere. So the pregnancy would maintain viability outside of the body, limiting its damage to the mother. But things like
ectopic
or tubular pregnancies would essentially do significant harm to both the mother and the baby wouldn't survive anyway. So those are situations where I believe that it has to come down to a decision between the mother and the doctor on whether or not the pregnancy would even maintain viability outside of utero. I don't think that that's a litigation type. That's not something that's decided in a court. That's something that has to be decided in a hospital room.
I would agree with that.
There's a lot of unfortunate what ifs and, well, in this scenario that make litigation and legislation over this issue very difficult, is because there's a lot of things that can happen inside of our bodies that we cannot predict.
Oh, absolutely.
And without that ability to predict, we can't say, well, everything is going to fit in this box, or this box. And too many people want that to be true, not only in the pro-life, but the pro-choice circle as well. And very few are willing to acknowledge that some circumstances are going to be unique, and those have to be given unique opportunity.
I would agree with you for sure. I think my goal would be, if we could come at these situations that are so unique with a view to respecting the dignity of both people, it would change the whole landscape of how we view human life. And so I think like elective abortion is completely a perversion of human dignity. But in those cases where the mother's life is hanging in the balance, things become very complicated. But if we can come at it from a view of what am I going to do that's going to respect the dignity of both of these people, I think will transform the culture. And you see in places, well, very few places, but in Ireland, for example, treatment for pregnant women who get cancer is extremely different from in the US, where abortion on demand is just widespread and accepted. In Ireland, if you get cancer when you're pregnant, they will take some extra precautions just to make sure that your cancer treatment has less of an effect on the child if possible. Obviously, if the child dies, that's okay. But in the US, if you get cancer, you're much more likely to just be told, well, you have cancer, you need to abort your child so that we can start treatment. And there's not even really a view to what can we do to kind of respect the dignity of both of these people. So I'd love it if we could kind of, like, if both sides could come together and agree that that's a goal, then
if
I think
the second option were at the very least presented.
Exactly.
Oh,
we can do this, but this is what that's going to do. Or we can do this. It won't cure your cancer, but it will maintain the symptoms until you can finish the pregnancy out, and then we'll go through aggressive treatment. I absolutely agree that it should at the very least be presented as an option.
Yeah.
Why is the US so like pro-abortion, and why is it that it is so encouraged? I don't understand that mentality. That's very strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the roots of like the women's movement when abortion started. So when abortion started, we married the abortion movement to the women's movement, and so it gained really huge momentum. And I'm sure that spread internationally, but I think the fact that it kind of originated here, where literally an abortion doctor went to the leader of the women's movement, Betty Friedan, in the 1960s and said, hey, can you take on abortion as one of your platforms? The women's movement had credibility and gained momentum so quickly that adding abortion into that movement kind of like is what caused it to become so widespread, I think.
It was because there's a whole storm that it got sucked up into. And I do feel like it is a completely separate issue. But it was very well timed on behalf of this doctor.
Oh, definitely.
We have seen a change in attitude since Roe v. Wade. We have seen a fluctuation where people are becoming more realistic, more willing to weigh their options before they make a giant jump. We're seeing a very small sect of people who are like, well, I don't feel like going and getting a morning after pill. I'll just wait a few weeks and see what happens.
Yeah, they're using it as contraception. Abortion is not contraception.
And again, that is a very, very small percentage.
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
small percentage. We're talking
Still-
like
Well,
0.03 or
small
something.
not is
like
vile.
but it shouldn't be something that happens at all, because that's not what it is. Mistakes happen. We are all human. We screw up. But everybody knows where the local pharmacy is, and you can go and pay your $20 or whatever for a morning after pill, so you don't have to make this choice.
True, but I mean, how does like a penis accidentally fall into your vagina? When you say mistakes happen, what do you mean specifically?
Broken condoms.
Oh, okay. That I can accept a little more.
I got way too drunk and did something way too stupid and kind of forgot that I didn't take my pill. I'm not saying...
Yeah, no, that makes more sense.
But we're human and we screw up.
Yes, no, you're not wrong there. That's true.
So, and this is why the morning after pill exists. This is why birth control should be widely available, is so that these moments of human error don't create a situation where you're having to feel like you're backed against a wall, because you're not. Options are available.
Yes, that's true. Do you agree, Lauren?
That don't involve having to go to an abortion clinic.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. I'm not opposed. I'm not personally opposed to the morning after pill. Are you, Lauren?
It can be abortifacient in nature. So the morning after pill has 3 modes of operation. One is to like prevent ovulation. One is to make your cervical mucus like too thick for sperm to come through in case you do ovulate. But then the third is to make the lining of your uterus inhospitable. So if fertilization did happen, and like as a pro-lifer, I believe that life begins at fertilization. So if fertilization did happen, the new life wouldn't be able to implant. So I think that it's probably not that common, but the morning after pill could be abortifacient. But I think the morning after pill is probably not causing very many abortions. I just wish that we had a different like approach to sexuality in general in the U.S. and the West. So
that's a cultural question that I honestly I don't see it changing.
Oh yeah,
because sexuality,
it could change. Islam will take over the world. It could change.
Yeah.
I said it could change. Islam is infiltrating its way into society, so we'll all be wearing burqas.
Oh dear.
Can I take a hard pass on that one?
Sorry.
Legit, can I just like take a hard pass on the whole Islam thing?
Yeah. Shouldn't have said that.
You shouldn't say a lot of things, Dia. It's never stopped you.
Sorry, keep going.
But I mean, honestly, it does come down to a cultural thing. And it could very well change. But because a lot of these wonderful oh crap, it broke moment were very hormone driven and not driven by actual brain power. I see the morning after pill as a preferable option. Not a perfect option, but a preferable option.
Well, it's better than abortion. Like
better than waiting 12 to 16 to 20 weeks.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on that train. Mostly. Yeah, I would agree with that. Is anything else you guys want to add to this particular line of question?
What were we talking? Were we talking about viability originally?
Yes. Yeah, we're talking about reducing. Yeah, that was like 3-4 different tangents. Yeah. So loose women discussing abortion being reduced, and the poll was 89% that it should be at least.
Majority of people are on board.
Yes, in the UK, which I think is a positive.
Which is really interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll just add, this is kind of like a really bizarre, like interesting fact, but in the US, so 89% of people in the UK support bringing the gestational weeks back. In the US, only 11% of the population actually supports, this is good, actually support the tenets of Roe v. Wade. So in the US, only 11% of the population support abortion, elective abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason. So it sounds like there might be some alignment there between those two worldviews.
I hope so.
For the most part, the ones who are those among the 11%, when new technology that will allow for external gestation come through and become more common, I believe that that 11% will be reduced even more to that 0.03 who are just radicals.
Who are just crazy.
Because most of those 11% are saying, okay, well, when we're having to make a choice between an existing life and a potential life, what do we choose? Is there an option for both? And if there's not, do we remove the option for the mother to survive? And that's the mentality that's maintaining that 11%. Once that's no longer a question ever, I believe that will be reduced to only the radicals.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the what are they called? They're not called external uteruses. What is the technology called that they're developing?
Artificial womb.
Artificial wombs. I had to make that more complicated than it was.
Cloning
are gonna like totally transform the abortion debate. It's gonna be really exciting to see.
It really will, because it'll just be a process of removing the fetus and inserting it into this little baby bubble where it can finish doing its job through mechanical means.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's actually
So
really
good.
cool, and
it's
going to change a lot of the conversation around abortion.
Yeah.
Because the necessity of it will be limited only to rape or incest or disability type cases, which for the most part, even pro-life people are like, okay, well, I can see that.
Yeah, well, we give the caveat out for sure.
Right. They get the pass card. So I think that would be where it ended up being limited to once the artificial womb becomes more common and widely available. Because right now it is very much in test phases. It's they have to make sure that it's even a real option and work it up to a real option before that becomes presented as a option for potential mothers.
I feel like this is another tangent. I feel like this will be something that women who don't want to get fat from pregnancy might opt for.
Well, you know what? If they can afford to have it taken out and put into an artificial womb, go for it. Okay.
Kim Kardashian, her 4th child will be with this thingy.
Exactly. You know what? It's still giving the baby everything that it needs. Yes. And it reduces the threat to the parent. It reduces the threat to the fetus. And you know what? If you don't want stretch marks and you want to pay to do it as an elective, why not? It's not killing anything. And
I don't think I'm opposed. Yeah. Well, that's good. I think we've said everything on that. I'm glad that the UK and that the US have some form of alignment regarding that issue. And Lauren, in our interview that we did several months back, you did say that and it's something I also said, that in the US now, more and more people, it's 50% of the population, men and women, are pro-life, and it's the other 50% that are pro-choice. So there's no real standard of right and wrong that they can bring up. They go, oh, well, they're wrong, and then the other group says, well, they're wrong. Obviously, we have the argument of life on our side. But my point in raising that is that the new, conservatism is the new counterculture. That's becoming a thing, but it's still highly ridiculed by the media and by the left. But it's good to see it on the rise, I think.
Which is a really good segue into your third talking point, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Good job.
my friend Joy Villa. So probably, so Joy Villa, everyone knows, is pro-life. That's been debated as well by lefties and by pro-choicers and by pro-lifers. She's copping a lot of flack at the moment. But basically, at the Grammys last year, she wore that "Make America Great Again" dress. This year, she wore that white wedding dress, and she painted on a rainbow fetus, and then her purse said "Choose Life." So,
God, she's so cringe sometimes.
This is what I wrote down. The dress made a great statement in support of life. Joy Villa has been criticized by the left and the right for being too political. She's been called attention-seeking. She admits it's attention-seeking. That's the point of a dress on the red carpet. It is being suggested that she's pushing the agenda of Scientology, which I don't understand, because Scientology is in support and encourages women in the Sea Org to have abortions. So
yeah.
yes, so I don't think she's pushing an agenda there, because the agenda is pro-life and they're not pro-life. So she's still an individual outside of the organization of Scientology. Right. And then conservatism in Hollywood is no benefit at all to her, because, so those are the points I wrote down. Anyone have anything to add or to elaborate on those things?
I would like to see 80% less politics in Hollywood, pretty please.
Yes,
that's my comment.
on both sides,
on
right?
Both sides, just please stop.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence, please stop.
Please.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I would agree with that, which is why I love Joy Vila, because she's leveling the playing field a little bit. I mean, the politics in Hollywood are not right and left; they're left and further left. So I feel like having a pro-life provocateur is perfectly fitting in that venue. And I think it was just completely badass for her to walk into what was probably the most pro-abortion group of human beings on planet Earth wearing a dress that had a fetus on it. I thought that was just very bold, and I don't mind provocateur or opportunist when it's at the service of something that needs to be voiced more often. I liked it. I was really disappointed to see a lot of people on the right bashing her for the decision, because I don't see those same people on the right bashing Kanye West or people that are making equally provocative statements for leftist views. For some reason, we need to tell each other in the conservative world to be quiet when we're being a little too bold or provocative. But I think more power to Joy. And I mean, I hope that she continues to have the bravery to stand up to the Hollywood elite and just really buck the status quo in that way.
I have something to add to what you said, Lauren, which you might be surprised. I'm sort of going against you here. Don't you think that it is imperative that we can criticize anyone?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point of the First Amendment. So I don't think that conservatives should not be allowed to criticize each other. Okay. But I think it's counterproductive for them to criticize someone who is making a pro-life statement at the Grammy.
Yeah. I think pro-life statement means that you are pro-babies, you're pro-humanity, pro-life. So I don't understand the amount of criticism she got. I thought was very unfortunate. Also, do you guys think that there's an agenda there in relation to Scientology? Because as I just said, Scientology is it forces abortions on women, and she's not on that train. She's not even telling that story.
I will say that Scientology, as far as I can tell, always has an agenda. There is no part of any of the members' lives that is not absorbed by Scientology.
Oh, so you're comfortable talking about Scientology, Nicole, not Islam. Okay.
Well, Scientology
to get my house blowed up.
Scientology is more of a world view.
Yeah, no.
we have 3 viewers.
We do have viewers, and I actually no, right now though. And
T. Lee Jones, I know that name. I've seen that somewhere before.
Yes.
And Rachel Purity. Anyway, sorry, keep going. Keep talking. What were you saying, Nicole?
So Scientology, we've seen it before. We've seen it in the feuds over it within Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
It becomes a very big part of who they are. And it is an indoctrination process. So I don't know how much of Joy is going to be about the Scientology and how much is going to be about the politics, because I don't know that Scientologists are capable of separating.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I've actually read Leah Remini's book. I read the whole thing, and then I gave it to my sister to read. I have a very negative opinion on Scientology. I have a very negative opinion on Mormonism. I have a very negative opinion on many different organizations. But that doesn't mean that you can't take certain elements from these things that I personally consider negative and have positives out of it. From what I read and from what I saw, I'm part of CRTV. I have $100 a year whatever the word is with CRTV. So you have Stephen Crowder, Gavin McCann's Roaming Millennial. And so she was on Gavin McCann's show, Get Off My Lawn. He's pretty aggressive to his guests, and he asks the hard questions. And he said to Joy, what's going on with Scientology? Like, are you a Scientologist? And she goes, yes, I am. She was very transparent about it. She goes, I take the tools from Scientology, but I am a Christian. My father's a Christian minister. So
I don't know that the two can coexist.
I'm not sure those two things
I
converge.
don't think that's a thing that you can be both.
Do you know what? I actually agree with you guys. I'm simply telling you what her mentality, what her justification is. I'm not saying I disagree, by the way. I'm not.
I think we were just reacting to that statement because that took us all by surprise.
I know. You're right.
The logic just kind of broke.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't agree with it in any way, but I think when she says she takes the tools, I don't know what that means. Well, I don't know what kind of tools Scientology offers. What I did read in Leah Remini's book is that you are desensitized to emotion. So they get someone to come at you and to say things to you like, you're fat, and then you get offended. Again, you're fat, or whatever the comment is, until finally you're just like, okay. And so you're like, okay, that doesn't offend me anymore. So I can see the benefit of that. I mean, if I'm a Christian, which I am, and then I learned to not be easily offended, which I don't think I am anyway. But
I think everyone should learn not to be easily offended. But I think that's a personal thing. I think Scientology is toxic and terrible and should go away.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I agree. And Joy, I hope you're not watching.
Hi, Joy.
I mean, look, I don't think it really matters. Like, okay, it does matter what your kind of worldview is if you're taking a position.
To a degree, it does, absolutely.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think there's an element of natural law that's guiding us, regardless of what our stated religion or worldview is. There's something, I think, innate in us that I believe that we kind of know that it's wrong to kill people, like innately. I think that goes against something inside of us. And so if she has a pro-life worldview, that might be at odds with Scientology, but that might be speaking to something like higher in her nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, she's an individual. Sorry, yeah?
Dia and I actually had a conversation the other day about the separation of morality and religion.
Yes, we're getting to the really hard subjects.
And whether or not it's capable to have morality without religion being involved. And I maintain that it is. I don't think that that is essential to the morality. And I think that that's where Joy is finding her positions are from a moral stance and not a religious one.
Oh, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the Greek philosophers and Hammurabi, and like they didn't necessarily have religions, but there were codes of morality. At the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So the reason I have such a, I actually put on my Instagram page like a throwback, and on my throwback on the Instagram page, it was a minute of me and Joy Villa discussing her pro-life story, and that she didn't end up aborting the baby that she had. And she ended up giving it up for adoption. And I put it up on my Instagram, and then this girl writes down, do you not realize that Joy Villa this and Joy Villa that, and that she's a product of all this stuff? And then I was like, I think she was trying to like inform me, like I didn't know, but I did know. I know everything negative about every single person that I interview, and I'm a well-researched person, so I knew what she was talking about anyway. So I responded and I said, yes, I'm aware of this. However, do you realize that Joy Villa has stated this? Whether I agree with her or not, my experience with Joy Villa is a positive one. Like she shared my GoFundMe page and she donated. So she's a kind person.
Good job, Joy.
Yeah, she's a kind person despite all the hate she's getting.
We aren't defined by one aspect of our perspective.
Exactly. And this is my yes, actually that's a good takeaway. I would agree with that. Yeah. So that's pretty good. The last point wasn't really necessarily a headline, but more of a plug. And Lauren, I'll let you take the floor. But before we begin, I just want to say that the Human Coalition has saved over 8,000 babies from termination. Yay!
Thank you.
That's a great thing. Everyone should be able to applaud that. But yeah.
And we had a really interesting statistic that we publicized the other day, and that was 97% of the clients that we serve, when they leave our system of care, they take an exit survey, and 97% of them would refer Human Coalition to a friend, or refer a friend to Human Coalition. And the reason that I found that so interesting is because that includes the women who leave our system of care to obtain an abortion. So even the women who leave Human Coalition and don't choose to carry to term, but they choose to get an abortion, they still would refer a pregnant friend, to go to Human Coalition when they found out that they were pregnant.
That's fabulous.
So that's a powerful statistic, yeah. But that's not my PSA. So my,
it's just an interesting side note.
Yeah. My little announcement is that Human Coalition, humancoalition.org, we just started a podcast. It's a weekly video podcast like what Ben Shapiro does, where they film him, but you can listen to it audio or watch it. It's half an hour a week, and it covers pro-life, apologetics, worldview. It breaks down cultural happenings, kind of like what we did today. The host is Brian Fisher, who's the co-founder and president of Human Coalition.
Yes,
I'm the producer. We have a team that does the technical things because, as you can well imagine, I do not do the technical things of the Human Coalition show.
You're a fabulous writer, though. I
you.
love the article that you wrote for the New York Times. I linked it in my previous video that we had together. So
I'm much more coherent in writing than I am in speaking. So, but the URL for the show, if anyone wants to check it out, is the Human Element. I think it's the Human Element.
I'll add it to the description box.
.com, thehumanelementshow.com. And if you go to programs, you can listen to the first 2 episodes. But it's a great show. Brian has a background in radio, and so he kind of knows what he's doing already.
He's right at home.
He jumped right in and just ran with it, and it's fabulous.
Well, that's actually how we met. Initially, I sent him an email, and I'm like, I want to talk to Brian Fisher. I want to talk to this, well-known man, because the premise for the chat that I wanted to do with him was, I want to be able to talk to a man about being pro-life, because men aren't allowed to have an opinion on being pro-life because they're not carrying the baby and all that stupid logic. And then you were like, he's unavailable, but I'm available, and then that's how we became friends, Lauren.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But I mean, that's a good point. Brian does have a book called Abortion, the Ultimate Exploitation of Women. And it's basically a book written to men, telling them why they should be pro-life and how they can just kind of step up in those situations where they might be tempted to just say, do whatever you want. But then the woman might hear that as, I'm not here for you. So he kind of just calls them to be a little bit more responsible. I think personal responsibility is something that we all are a big fan of. So
I would agree with that.
Yeah, he's a good thought leader. I've definitely grown in my perspective of the pro-life movement. Even having come from a pro-life background, I still learn a lot from Brian every day.
That's really good. You'll be able to eat your sandwich soon, Nicole. Relax.
I was just commenting to Sheriff Woody, who thinks we should all go and get back in the kitchen because we're clearly deviating.
Sheriff Woody said that he's a male and I aborted my child with a coat hanger. I don't really know how that adds to the conversation, but thanks for the input.
And that's not really a thing, by the way.
Sorry?
That's not really a thing. By the way, back alley abortions were just abortions done by doctors, but the women went in through the back door.
So wait, is that false? That you can use a coat hanger to
yes.
You probably
can manage to do is severely injure yourself.
Yeah.
I am actually that dumb. I actually believe that was a thing. So you guys are educated.
You will not be aborting a baby with coat hanger and a vacuum cleaner.
Okay.
You will be killing yourself.
Yes.
You will be
at the very least destroying your reproductive organs and going through a ton of pain, which I don't recommend because ow.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Do you know what? I read something and I believed it. This is how stupid I was. Whoopi Goldberg is so into defending abortion. She defends it so much. And I read an article on her online because, nobody lies online, that she did that she had an abortion and she did it herself. And I was for years thinking in my head, wow, I used to love that woman. But now that I know that she's killed her own babies using a coat hanger, I don't know where I stand with her. But now you're telling me that's not even a reality.
Not something that you can do.
Yeah, I can't. Having had 3 kids, naturally, I'm not sure how that would work.
I've also had 3, and I promise it wouldn't.
No, I believe you guys. I haven't had children, so I'm clearly quite ignorant. So this is just
the term back alley abortion. When they talk about coat hanger abortions and back alley abortions, what happened is that women used to go to legitimate doctors who would do an abortion, but they would go at night and they would enter through the back alley because it wouldn't be legal for them to go. So the doctors didn't want the authorities to know that they were at their offices late at
Right.
night. They come and ask what they were doing there late at night.
Back alley sounds so bad, and then when
But,
you're
yeah,
explaining
they-
it, it's
they
just
were
a doctor
actual-
doing it.
They were actual doctors, and sometimes they would operate out of their offices or clinics after hours. Sometimes they would offer the service out of their home from a home office. But it was always a medical procedure. There was no vacuum cleaner and a coat hanger. It was done by a medical professional from day one.
Interesting.
So, yeah, there's no hope.
So that's been a
hanger
perpetuated
solution.
talking point that I've believed for years. I even did a whole episode on Cold Case about a back alley abortion and how some girl died from it.
It was possible because without all the necessary medical equipment, home abortions, which were when you went to the doctor's home, were not necessarily as safe as when you were in a medical facility.
And
which is probably why the girl died.
And we're also talking about pre-1970s, where medicine was actually pretty primitive, and a lot of abortions did cause fatal bleed outs.
Well, I saw not that long ago, Stephen Crowder and Ben Shapiro both posted up an article about a really pretty Mexican girl who got an abortion and died she died. So it was like what happened last year. Yeah.
Are both real threats.
So it still happens. Yeah. It's still a constant occurrence.
Oh yeah.
It is a medical procedure, and just like with any surgical procedure, risk of infection or uncontrolled bleeding are very real, and that's why back alley abortions are something that we definitely want to avoid, specifically because if this is going to be a thing that's going to happen anyway, we want to make sure that people aren't getting infections that are going untreated or bleeding out in their living rooms.
Of course. Well, before we finish up, just because we're on this tangent, do you guys think that the phrase of if there was no such thing, oh my god, my voice, hang on. If there was no
sexy.
Gross. I just woke up.
Well, I'm turned on.
Shut up, Nicole. You just gotta scare Sunshine Lauren away.
No, she won't.
She's blushing. Cute. All right.
If there was no such thing as abortion, people would then resort to really, really dangerous ways of doing it. I personally find that counterproductive, counterintuitive, but I want to get your perspectives on that particular phrase that gets sort of perpetuated by the left and by the media.
Well, this is the reason that pro-lifers want to make abortion not only unavailable and illegal, but
unthinkable. Well, it is unthinkable to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is if all we do is go tomorrow to the Supreme Court and somehow magically overturn Roe v. Wade, which is not that unlikely of a scenario.
Donald Trump.
It has been amended
not going to have a big
times
impact on the abortion rate. We have to change the culture. We have to restore respect for human life. There are a lot of steps that are going to have to be taken so that abortion, the abortion rate really is reduced, even if it becomes illegal. In terms of it being more dangerous,
put a panting baby on air, hack into the network TVs, and put a panting baby on air until it dies, and people will automatically change.
I believe that that visuals are important in changing hearts and minds for sure. I think people should watch the Center for Medical Progress videos. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that making abortion illegal is going to really change the situation in America unless
I think ultimately the solution is going to be with science and technology making it unnecessary. From any perspective, when it is the least viable option from any perspective, it will lose traction with any group.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The greatest solution we have right now is the artificial womb. And
which I only learned about today.
I think we should be pumping as much endorsement and money into as humanly possible because it's a wonderful idea.
Yes, put money into that rather than in my GoFundMe to Israel.
No, send it to Israel. This is also important.
Yeah.
I think that the abortion movement recognizes that the artificial womb is going to transform things, and that the pro-life movement is having a huge impact on the way that people view human life, because their narrative is changing. It's becoming, so we've always known that they were radical in their worldview, but their rhetoric was always safe, legal, and rare. It was always more muted rhetoric, but now we're having campaigns like Shout Your Abortion, thank an abortion provider, celebrate abortion. Abortion is a social good. A lot of these sound bites.
That infuriated all three of us. I got to say.
Actually, it did.
Yeah. Abortion, or the rhetoric is becoming very sharp, and it's becoming very counterintuitive and radical. And I think that's because they can see that this change is coming between the pro-life movement putting the abortion industry out of business by taking care of pregnant women, and technology making abortion not even a viable option for anybody.
Right.
Where are people like NARAL and Planned Parenthood going to go from here? And that's why you see the marketing and the rhetoric changing.
Well, the reason that I think Planned Parenthood is going to continue to exist is because I do like to see the availability that it gives to particularly teens for birth control. Young people are not known for their good choices.
Yeah, that's true.
And as Lauren knows, we don't exist inside of our children's heads. So I do see Planned Parenthood as a positive thing, because it does allow access for young people.
You mean for the future? You don't mean currently? Because currently,
not currently. Currently, it's kind of a mess because of all the politics. I'm saying
I can somewhat agree.
As it takes the technological shift, I can see it still serving a viable purpose to allow for safe contraception options where kids are not feeling as confined by their own home providers. They have a place to go. And I do think that they should have a place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, under Title X, there are so many options, and Planned Parenthood doesn't take up very much of the market of the sex ed and contraception market. I think the concept of having education and medical resources for teenagers is definitely viable, but I don't think that Planned Parenthood as an institution has any legs to stand on, just because their history is racist. It's eugenicist.
Very racist. Yeah.
They promote BDSM to teenagers. They tell kids not to talk about their sex lives with their parents. I mean, they're really breaking down
eugenics.
They're breaking down healthy barriers and relationships that should be built up and not broken down. So I think the concept of what Planned Parenthood says it's doing, where it's providing medical care and education, the concept is good. I don't think the organization should exist.
Oh yeah, the concept is good.
The concept is good. If they go back to the ground up as all this extra stuff they've taken on and created their identity around becomes more background noise and less the forefront of the organization. If they become just another free corner clinic, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, just have them get absorbed into the FQHC, Federally Qualified Health Center, network, and have Planned Parenthood as an institution can just kind of dissolve.
Maybe the Human Coalition will rise and Planned Parenthood will fall.
Look, I don't want to jinx it, but we are going to put the abortion industry out of business. So yeah.
That's the hope, right?
That's the goal. That's not the hope. That is the plan. That's the goal, and that's what we're going to do.
It's like, what's that movie, Demolition Man? Have you seen it with Sandra Bullock and Sylvester Stallone? Abortion is illegal. They're living in San Angeles, which is Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Diego mixed together. And abortions become illegal. And the only way to have babies is through a lab, sex isn't allowed either. And you can't even high five. You have to kind of do that.
Gosh.
This is an old movie that is based in the year like 3000 or something like that. It's really funny, but it sort of sounds like, I don't know. Sorry, my mind just went there.
That's actually interesting information, because Sandra Bullock is about to play Wendy Davis in the movie about her, and I did not realize that wouldn't be Sandra Bullock's first movie about abortion. Wendy Davis is the Texas senator who ran for governor after she filibustered a bill, HB2, the omnibus bill in 2013 that made a whole bunch of pro-life progress in Texas.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I liked the movie The Blind Side. She played a woman who adopted this big black guy. I think.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That was a good movie. I feel like Sandra. Yeah, Sandra looks like a secret pro-lifer. She's probably just not going to say it out loud. She's a cute little
she's playing when Wendy Davis is bad.
Oh, bad. Sorry,
yeah.
I thought you said something about pro-life. I misunderstood you. Okay.
Yeah, we have to hope for her to go back in the other direction.
Yeah. Well, very few Hollywood people will outwardly say I'm pro-life because it's not a good thing for whatever reason. Well, guys, it's been real. I have to have breakfast. I'm sure you guys have kids to put to sleep and I need to eat, and
I have dinner to cook.
There you go. So thank you so much, Nicole and Lauren and Enriquez, for being on my channel and discussing the very messy subject of abortion. I think we did it very well. We're showing pro-choicers and pro-lifers how to talk without resorting to heated arguments. And
there will be no pistols at dawn. I still like Lauren.
we didn't even call each other names. Come on.
Not even once.
Not even once.
You bitches. There we go. There's once now.
Okay, all right. Now we're good.
Now we're good. Now it's done. now we're bitches. Now it's off our chests. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, and anyone who tuned in now. Thank you for watching and for all your random comments. Some of them are cool, some of them are odd. But anyway, let's go make a sandwich. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys. It was nice talking to you.
Nice to meet you. Bye. Well, that was fun.
All right.
All right. Yeah, go off air now.